And welcome back to Salam Media with myself, Salam Makudiri. The time is 8:40 a.m. Central African time, and we have our hashtag Africa Focus feature. This is a part of the show where we focus on the African continent and some of the top stories that are deserving of eyes and ears. And at the moment, I think in all aspects, no place on the continent deserves attention as much as Sudan, and that's what we'll be turning our attention to, where tragedy has struck in Darfur and the surrounding parts. A massive landslide has wiped out an entire village of Tarasin in the Mara Mountains, killing an estimated 1,000 people. It is being described as Sudan's deadliest natural disaster in recent history. The landslide, followed by days of relentless rain in the conflict scarred Darfur region, leaving behind nothing but flattened earth and rubble, and only a few survivors. And as families continue to dig through the debris for their loved ones, aid groups are warning that much of Darfur is still cut off from humanitarian access because of the ongoing civil war. And to help us understand the scale of this disaster and what it means for Sudan, already gripped in one of the world's worst humanitarian crises, we are now joined by Sudanese journalist Saeed Abdalla. Brother Saeed, assalamu alaikum. Jazakallah so much for joining us. Always a pleasure chatting to you here on Salam Media.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you so much for having me.
No, the pleasure's all ours. I think we can kickstart the conversation with maybe what you might have gathered from those that are in the ground in Sudan about what it is known about the landslide and the devastation that it has caused thus far.
It's a very sad day. It was a very sad day for Sudan. I think what we saw in Tersin there, it's a real disaster that we didn't see in the recent history. It's a landslide that hit that village, which is already like cut out of the like from the service from the country, and in order to get to that village itself, like you cannot, you need to walk or you need to ride a donkey or something. You cannot vehicles, and the terrain there is very difficult, and I think like we still don't know what is the real situation there. What we know, according to the like this rebel armed group led by the Abdullah Muhammad Noor, what he said is like what we have now, like 1,000 people killed according to this landslide, and what the UN is saying at the moment as well, like it's we talking about 300 to 1,000. So we don't know the precise number, but
Mm.
what we know, it's a disaster that to some extent it was expected because due to the heavy rain, but we still, there's a lot to be confirmed in the upcoming days.
And I think a very, very concerning state of affairs there. Um, you mentioned something that's very, very important. The fact that that part of Sudan, the Tarasin region, is largely cut off from humanitarian groups and humanitarian and access to humanitarian aid. What challenges, are these groups facing now? To even reach the Mara Mountains region, and I'm sure they are already stretched from the ongoing civil war.
First of all, as we know, like this ongoing war in Sudan at the moment that affects all the humanitarian aid corridors in the country. That's the first aspect. Secondly, this area, it's, as I said, like it's cut off. There's lack of transportation. There's also lack of connection as well. Like it's the, there's already no network there to communicate with people. People need to walk for a few hours to get to other areas. Remember, Jabal Mara is it's a massive mountain in the in the middle of Darfur region, and there's different areas of that mountain that I mean, like other villages that have maybe they have better services than 13. So what people do, that they need to walk all these it's like for long distance to just to get to have at least like to connect with the authorities, or at least like to get basic services and rescue from other areas. So in order to get the humanitarian aid, like there's already two difficulties, main difficulties here. The first, the war negatively affected these efforts. Secondly, is the terrain and the road to get to there. It's already difficult. So it's a very tough situation for the people on the ground. And yeah, hopefully that at least like the international humanitarian aid organizations, they can get access to those areas with the help of these warring factions
Mm.
and with the help also with the local authority.
Mm, mm. And we often hear about challenges that humanitarian organizations face when it comes to entering the Darfur region and the surrounding areas, and Sudan in itself. It's a very, very difficult place for humanitarian aid to reach. Just for the benefit of our listeners who might not quite fully understand why, the reason is that aid is not entering in Sudan as much as you'd expect it to, because Sudan has been, touted as being the largest humanitarian catastrophe and crisis on the African continent at the current moment.
The problem that after the war erupted in April 2023, these two warring factions have been using aid as a tool of this war. So, and the area of the staff or RSF control, you find they don't allow the humanitarian aid to get access uh, to the other regions. And sometimes they steal the humanitarian aid for themselves. So it becomes there's some sort of difficulties for the humanitarian aid first to access. Secondly, the donors. I think there's also lack of uh, aid, the aid itself from the international community. So just the amount you get in order to get to Sudan, it's difficult. And secondly, it's the people on the ground. They only get like little of what it should be according to the situation there. So yeah,
Mm.
it's a bit of difficulties here for because of this context of the war in Sudan.
And I'm sure this disaster just compounded everything. Just lastly, before I let you go, brother Said, and I just want to segue just a bit to the politics. Just a few days ago, we saw the paramilitary rapid support forces RSF commander Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo being sworn in. I think it was on Sunday, if I'm not mistaken, as the head of this new parallel government in Sudan. Can you maybe just explain what that means, and how is this parallel government supposed to be working?
Mm. I think this is not a good sign at all for Sudan as a country. So having two governments in one country, it shows that the situation in the country gets to a very uh, like there's some sort of threat of the country that might split again, as like just like what happened in South Sudan
Mm,
about 14 or 15 years ago. And that's we literally are taking the Libya scenario where you have like two governments, and just like there's there's no gain on the ground for the two factions. There is no like basic services for the people as well, and you end up like having just the international community will deal with the de facto situation on the ground as well. So that's not a good sign for us. We don't look at that as a positive sign, but also there's reasons behind that. It's been built up from the beginning of this war. So I think this disaster now we saw now the scene, and this the cholera and all this hectic situation that people are facing on the ground now. I think we need to take this as it demands some sort of national unity, and it demands collective action to end the war, and at least like to get to a ceasefire, and then people, the Sudanese people, they can start solving their problems on the negotiation tables rather than like we get more of the humanitarian disaster of the country. Uh, so having another government is not a solution to to the Sudanese problem. I would rather say like let's sit together and talk, and we can find a political path that can be suitable for everyone on in Sudan.
No, most definitely. I think we're going to leave it on that note. Saeed Abdalla, Jasakla, so much. Always a pleasure chatting to you and for giving us those insights on, I think, a very, very critical um, issue on the African continent, and one that is not getting as much attention as you'd think it will get. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Jazakallah.
I mean, that was Sudanese journalist Saeed Abdalla reflecting on the devastating landslide in Darfur that has claimed at least 1,000 lives. And a reminder that in Sudan, there's currently a brutal war, and nature's fury now colliding with already what's happening, leaving ordinary families to pay the highest price. And the question for me is, why are we not seeing more of this? Why are we not hearing more about Sudan and seeing more about Sudan and reading more about Sudan? Because it is the African continent's largest humanitarian crisis at the moment. I remember back in the day when there used to be famine in places like Ethiopia and Somalia. Um, it used to be everywhere. You know, there used to be ads, there used to be reports on the news about what's happening there. Just recently, the DRC and what was happening in that part of the world, and the M23 forces and the Congolese army and everyone that is involved in that conflict, it was so widely reported. I don't think a day would go here in South Africa without you hearing about it. But Sudan, for some reason, is a different story. You know, no one seems to care. No one seems to want to report on it. And it's really sad for me, you know. And that's why here on Salam Media, we decided that enough is enough. We understand that there's so much happening. But as South Africans, as people who are on the continent of Africa, as much as it is important to focus on other regions and other places that are pressing and have, you know, issues that need a lot of attention, we can't ignore what's happening here at home on the African continent. That's why we went about, and I think we're going to put up that banner on the live stream for those that are watching. There's going to be a dialogue on Sudan, so the Sudan dialogue, where we'll be unpacking everything and anything that you need to know about the largest humanitarian crisis. So from its exodus, right from the beginning, I mean, from its genesis to its exodus, with why and how is Sudan what it is today? What are the powers that are at play? And we'll be having a panel of really, really brilliant experts, analysts, academics, people who have studied, know, understand Sudan to its entirety. And you can be a part of it. It's happening on the 14th of September, 2025. It's going to be on Sunday at 10:30 in the morning. It's happening at the Nelson Mandela Foundation, who are gracious enough to give us a space for us to work and to have these very, very meaningful conversations. If you don't know where it is, it is at 107 Central Street, Houghton Estate. And you can book your ticket by scanning the QR code that is currently on the screen. And you can be part of the conversation on Sudan, instead of complaining that, you know, not much is being done about it, not much is being said about it. We can be the people that actually start and spark that conversation on Sudan, because as much as Palestine is important right now, as much as what's happening in Afghanistan is important right now, Sudan is equally as important, because the struggle of a people, and a struggle of a marginalized people, especially, I don't think you can relegate one over the other. And it's very, very important also to understand that the struggles are also intertwined. They're parallel to each other. If you look at the powers that are at play, if you look at the countries that are involved, ultimately you'll see similar players in the Sudan crisis as you would in the genocide in Gaza at the moment. So let's give attention to Sudan, be a part of this, scan the QR code if you're watching live, book your ticket, and be part of this dialogue on Sudan happening on the 14th of September 2025 on a Sunday, 10:30 at the Nelson Mandela Foundation. Otherwise, if you want more information, you can give us a call on 011 680 0355. Be part of the change, be part of the solution. And this is proudly brought to you by Salam Media, your humanitarian journalism portal.